I invite you all at this time to also share words or phrases in the chat while I read through some examples. One that immediately comes to my mind is a trusted individual. I know enough about who is coming to my home to let them come in and to talk with them. I think of home visiting. When I think of home visiting, I think of the word intentional or maybe expected, meaning home visitors are there for a reason and the family we are visiting has a reason as well. There are degrees of expectations, maybe by both caregiver and home visitor. Maybe the word planned comes to mind. Sometimes it's a date and a time, and for others, there may be a planned activity. It's maybe individualized. We adapt, we accommodate, tailor, enhance, supplement, etc. with each family, with each visit, with each child, and so on. For me, a home visitor or program can specialize in a set of skills and can also carry certain knowledge aspects in their approach or delivery of home visiting. Sometimes home visiting focuses on young caregivers or families in the NICU or even services like early intervention. Other words or phrases might come to mind is that it's goal or purpose oriented. There's a place the family wants to get to in their parenting or because they are processing maybe a challenge in their life. It might be facilitated or based on the quality of relationships or relationship focused. And many, many more words we can use to describe these two things. What I observe most of the time in home visiting, especially when I facilitate the New Mexico home visiting collaborative meetings, I see more often than not consensus of what we think home visiting is rather than disagreements of what it is not. Which tells us that even if we are delivering home visiting in different ways, there are still connecting and withstanding foundational home visiting values we all share among each other. So if you've shared some words that come to your mind in the chat, think of those. Think of all the words that come to mind and the words that we could probably spend a whole day thinking of. But I'm going to share with you an image that also comes to my mind when I think of home visiting and home visitor. This is a picture of a Native woman from the Pueblo of Taos in 1905, but it is also an image that is recognizable and seen in today's Pueblos in New Mexico. For tribes of New Mexico, like those of the Pueblos, and before European contact, there existed many forms of family support through designated roles within the community and among tribal members. Some examples I'll be highlighting here. For those who have worked with families of tribes, you might already be aware or even heard of examples of pre-colonial roles of support among Indigenous tribes. And by Indigenous tribes, I mean any Indigenous person from other parts of the world as well. The most familiar that comes to mind is the role of midwife or a person who specializes in the skills and knowledge of the birthing process. Another example that is still practiced today is the role of mediators or counselors. These may be roles held within the family, like an elder or oldest sibling who could facilitate issues and challenges among family members. Sometimes these were also tribal leadership roles held among groups or designated positions. There is also the example of clanship or kinship caregiving. These extended relatives provided additional resources, information, and assistance that was intentional based on what was needed or requested within the tribe. Other examples can also be included are ceremonial and social practices fostered and focused on relationships and connections to all aspects of life and each other. And finally, the role of healers and medicine people. The role of healer or medicine man or woman, I believe, was the first home visitor of Indigenous people. This person's role exemplified the trusted individual who visited another person's home in their home and came with an intention, a plan, and individualized their services according to the person's concerns. These designated people also had specialized skill sets and knowledge based, facilitated the goal and purpose of the visit, and was centered on relationships, both spiritually, physically, socially, and emotionally. So since before European contact, many Western ways of thinking or practice, roles like these existed. Does that sound familiar? So in a sense, Indigenous communities have a claim on the foundational practice of home visiting as traditional practice.